So with all the Mets and the Jets talk, the Mets going into Atlanta tonight. The Jets are supposed to be, a real good team. We had Brian Costello on and everything. We've kind of ignored the Giants. So I wanted to do a little Giants today. And listen, the way the season started was a disaster. It was, they blown out in the first game, then looked terrible in the second game, losing to the Redskins, who were a bad team, but after last night, maybe they're not so bad. Coming into week 3 in Cleveland, it looked like the Giants might start this season like 0-5. You had the Cowboys coming up in a short week this week. They were going into Cleveland, who was a desperate team at 1-1. The Giants 0-2. You had Saquon Barkley doing everything right in Philadelphia. And then Barkley dropped the pass on Monday night. The Eagles lost because of it. And, you don't want to see Barkley do bad, right? We like Barkley. He never did anything wrong for the Giants. I can't blame him for going to take the money. But it felt, it felt a little good watching him drop that pass and subsequently the Eagles losing. So the Giants came into the game. Daniel Jones was awful the first 2 weeks. And listen, now there's hope. There is some hope for the Giants. They go into Cleveland. They come out with a 21-15 win. The defense sacked Deshaun Watson 8 times. They turned the ball over a couple times on the Browns. There was a strip sack. Daniel Jones was Phil Simms for the first half of that game. He was a 16 for 18. He started the game 10 for 10 or 12 for 12. He finished 24 of 34, 236, and 2 touchdowns. Singletary looked better in the backfield. You're not going to replace Saquon with Singletary, but he looked better. He scored a touchdown. He had some good runs. He should have scored 2 touchdowns, but he laid down at the 1-yard line, which that whole lay down at the 1-yard. Listen, the Giants were going to win if he went into the end zone or if he didn't. I almost think players now do it because they're going to get praised for it. I almost think they kind of go down and it's always for the team. And come on, the Giants were winning that game either way. There are no really onside kicks anymore. So what were they going to do? What was Cleveland going to do? So either way, the Giants get the win. Nabers has been the bright spot all 3 weeks. The first week he didn't really do too much, but these last 2 weeks he has been every bit the superstar that the Giants wanted when they drafted him. He had 8 catches, 78 yards, 2 TDs. He had a couple real nice catches where he went up on 50-50 balls and came down with it. He had big third down catches. He caught 2 touchdowns. One of them was a nice catch in the back of the end zone. And the Giants looked like a football team this week, right? They looked like a competent football team. And that's something that you can't really say for the Giants much over the last, 10 years. Take out the season 2 years ago, which I have put that season 2 years ago to me is right now just an anomaly. It's a throwaway because everything around it has been so bad. Well, they went into Cleveland. They come out with a win. They're now 2-1. They're now 1-2. The season's not lost. At 0-3, you see, like Cincinnati at 0-3, their season is basically lost. You don't make the playoffs at 0-3. You could say all you want about they're a good team and the numbers don't work. There's like 2%, maybe even less. I don't know the exact. It's like 2% of the teams make the playoffs when they start 0-3. So Cincinnati they're done. And a couple other teams, they're done. 0-3, you're done. Now they got a short week this week, the Giants, so they're 1-2. They're coming in, they're playing a Cowboys team that's limping into this thing, limping into the Meadowlands. And it's going to be interesting to see how this works, this game. Because if there was ever a Cowboys team that this Giants team could beat, it's this one, it's this week. Because the Giants are 0-11 in their last 11 matchups against the Cowboys. 0-11. That's almost 6 years worth of games. The Giants haven't beat the Cowboys. They play them twice a year. So, and in most of those games, they didn't stand a chance. This week, I think the Giants stand a chance. The Cowboys, they did not play well in their game against the Ravens, who were a desperate team themselves, trying not to be 0-3, because they know, listen, in the NFL, they know. The coaches know 0-3 is a death knell. Go 0-3 to start this season, it's over. Because once you get that 7th loss, it's officially over. But now you're halfway there, basically halfway to the 7 loss, and you're not even a month into the season. Forget about Halloween. We're not even in October yet. But back to the Giants, they were 1-2. They're 1-2 coming into this game. It's a short week. I think if there was ever a chance the Giants could beat the Cowboys, this Giants team could beat this Cowboys team, it's this week. Okay, you got the Cowboys who did not play well. Their offense is sputtering. I know they had the late push and they almost had the comeback against Baltimore, and they scored 19 points in that fourth quarter. But in the first 3 quarters, the Cowboys scored 3 points. The Ravens have a decent defense, but 3 points at home. The Cowboys are really, they're hearing it. They're starting to panic in Big D. You got Prescott just signed the big contract. Jerry Jones is, the Cowboys are never going to win anything with Jerry Jones running the ship because he's the general manager and he's not a football guy. He's a businessman. He's a businessman. He's a billionaire. He's excellent at what he does, and what he does is business, not football. It'd be like if you might think you can run the Giants, you might think you can run an NFL team as a general manager, but you can't because you're not a football guy. You don't know the ins and outs of being a general manager in the NFL. Okay, it's not like being a manager in Major League Baseball. That we could do. You just got to manage your team. We all know who should be coming in and what they should be doing. That's a little bit easier. The general manager of a football team, and if you watch Hard Knocks, you could see how tough of a job it really is. And if it's not your specialty, which it's not with Jerry Jones, you can't do it. And he's been trying now for 30-something years, and the Cowboys have won nothing. Since he made himself the general manager, the Cowboys have won nothing. And I don't know why it's not talked about more, but that's the one mainstay with the Cowboys is Jerry Jones as running the football operations. And they're not going to win anything. You could tell me all you want. You could put whatever team you want and do whatever you want with the Cowboys. They are not going to win as long as he is in charge of the football operations. He could be the owner. Listen, he's won championships as the owner. But Jimmy Johnson was running the football operations when they won. And when Barry Switzer won, it was Jimmy Johnson. It was the coattails of Jimmy Johnson that won. That's it. Jerry Jones has won nothing. They barely win playoff games. But the Giants now the Giants, I think they have a chance this week. It's going to be home. The crowd should be energized. It's a Thursday night national TV game. You got Nabers now is a budding superstar in the league, right? With his catches and he's playing well and he just looks the part, every bit the part of a superstar wide receiver. He's really looking to step into the OBJ footsteps, and he's on his way. So he could be what the Giants need to be. He's not the question mark. The question mark is going to be Daniel Jones, and it's going to be Daniel Jones every week. If he has a game like he did last week, the Giants have a chance. The Giants could be in any game. But if he plays like he's played more often than not, they're not going to be in the game. Cowboys are a better football team than the Giants. They have better players than the Giants. But you might just be catching them at the right time here. Now, I don't know if you might catch them at the wrong time. Maybe the Cowboys come in just motivated. They need this win. They can't afford another loss. The Redskins, the Commanders just won on Monday night. The Commanders have the new quarterback. Looks like they might have found their guy. He beat the Bengals. So now there's some pressure on the Cowboys. Well, it's going to be an interesting game. It should be a good game. Thursday night, listen, this is not like a NFC championship preview by any means. But it's a decent game, and Thursday night's had some decent games. And anytime you can get a decent game on Thursday night, you take it because it's just been a pile of garbage for most Thursday nights for Amazon over the couple years that they've had this package. So Daniel Jones, and listen, that game against Cleveland, can it turn the season around? Maybe. I mean, I still don't think the Giants are any good. I don't think they're going to win more than 7 games this year. But maybe they give you a little bit of a season, right? Maybe they stretch it out to Halloween or something, because the Jets now seem to be hitting their stride, and the Jets are going to take over the headlines in this city, and that's bound to happen. You got Rodgers over there. You got a team that's looking to contend, looking to win a championship. The headlines going through the fall and the main part of this fall is going to be about the Jets. So the Giants got to steal some while they can. And this is a game this week, Thursday night, against the Cowboys, a standalone national televised game where they can steal the headlines for the week. And it's going to be interesting to see what Brian Daboll does with his game plan, how they decide to go against the Cowboys with their defense. They're coming off a game where they sacked Deshaun Watson 8 times. They turned the ball over. There was some strip sacks. The Giants are going to need to control the ball here against the Cowboys. They're going to need to not turn it over. And they're going to need to have Daniel Jones have a decent game. Okay, he didn't throw for 500 yards. He's not that kind of quarterback. But he threw for 236, and that's good enough for Daniel Jones. That's good enough for the Giants to win games. Especially if you have Nabers. Now, the Cowboys, what the Cowboys are going to do is they're going to take Nabers out of it. So you're going to need your other wide receivers to step up and play a good game. Make some plays. The Giants wide receivers, besides Nabers, have not really made that much plays. And they haven't had a tight end since Jeremy Shockey, basically. They haven't had a tight end who's any kind of difference maker in this league. So we'll see what Daniel Jones does. You're going to need Singletary. I think Singletary might need a 100-yard game in here. They're going to need to control the clock. They did that well. The turnovers is going to be a huge stat in this game, as it is in every NFL game. If you look at the turnovers in an NFL game, if you win the turnover battle, 75 to 80% of the time, you're going to win the game. And the Cowboys will turn the ball over. Okay, so they came in, and now the Giants can't. They can't have a start like they had last week, where they fumble the opening kickoff, and then before you even blink an eye, one play into the game, it's 7-0 Cleveland. And if you didn't think that thing was going straight south and it was going to be a blowout in favor of the Browns, then you don't know what you were talking about. We all did. Every one of us. I was shocked that the Giants came back from that devastated. I mean, that's just a devastating start. Coming off those 2 bad weeks, you fumble the opening kickoff, you give up a touchdown on the first offensive play for the other team, and to come back from that, good for the Giants and good for Daniel Jones. He kept his composure. They stuck with the game plan, and they won the game. Now, it was close. Listen, most games, if you dominate the game like the Giants dominated most of that game, okay, the defensive line dominated for the Giants. The time of possession was dominated for the Giants. The turnovers were in favor of the Giants. And they still only won by 6. Deshaun Watson did not play very well. He was 21 of 37 for under 200 yards. He did throw 2 touchdowns, but again, his team fumbled the ball away. He threw a pick. There was a fumble. There were 2 fumbles, one by Watson, one by the running back in the end with about 3 minutes to go, and then the Giants took the ball over and ran the clock out. So get the turnovers against Dallas. See what you can do, and hopefully, maybe you keep yourself in the game. And you can win. You could surprise everybody and win a second straight game, and then you get to 2-2, and now you start to rolling. Now you start to believe that maybe something can happen this season. Maybe we're good enough to win some games in this league. I'm not going to be a believer in the Giants. Listen, they're going to need to do a lot more than beat the Browns and the Cowboys. But it's reasonable that they could be an all right team here going forward. Because now that you look at the schedule that really looked tough to begin with, now doesn't look so bad with the way teams are playing. You got the Cowboys this week, Thursday night. Then you're going to have a long week, and you play late Sunday in Seattle. Seattle looks good. That's going to be a tough game. But then you go to Cincinnati. Then you're home against Cincinnati. That looks like a very winnable game. And you can kind of get off to a good start. If the Giants can win this one, they're 2-2. They could be 3-3 after 6 games, and that's not a bad start, especially the way things started in the first couple weeks. Now, Dallas is going to be desperate. They got a better quarterback. They got a better defense. The defense was playing a bit lazy the other day. We'll see if Micah Parsons moving to the defensive end has not really worked out the way the Cowboys thought it would. You take Micah Parsons, you move him to the defensive end, and you expect to be just a sack machine, and it hasn't happened that way. So now they're questioning, there's talks in Dallas about whether they should move Parsons back to the linebacker position, have him play off the ball. Maybe that's just where he's meant to be and where he's more comfortable. Because listen, Parsons is a great player. He could wreck a game at any point. And he's not doing that at the defensive end position where they've been playing him, and that's not what they thought was going to happen. So you got McCarthy, you got the pressure of the owner on the coach, which is always a problem in Dallas. Another one of the big problems. And the Giants, you got Dable, who is teetering on his seat getting very hot. Okay, it's not. I don't think Dable's on the hot seat yet. But if the Giants would have lost last week, and if they would have lost this week, and they started the season 0-4, 0-5, and they won 4 or 5 games this year, Dable could be done. I said last year that Dable seemed to start to look like a one-hit wonder, just like Daniel Jones is. And I couldn't believe the Giants were starting this season with Daniel Jones as quarterback. I'm still not a Daniel Jones. I will never be a Daniel Jones guy, just because I don't think he's very good. And he's injury prone as well, on top of it. So we'll see if the Giants can get it. Nabers, like I said, you gotta get the ball to Nabers. He's your star. He's the superstar now on this team. He's the budding superstar in the league. He's having one of the better starts for any rookie wide receiver. He needs to get the ball, and the Cowboys are going to try and take that away. So we'll see if Daniel Jones tries to force it to Nabers, or if he tries to go to his other wide receivers. And if you have like someone like a Wan'Dale Robinson, have a big game, make a big play if he's single coverage when they're doubling Nabers, or if Nabers is really special, maybe he takes the double team and he's able to beat it, because that's what the real special ones do. You could double team, a great receiver, and he's going to find a way to get the ball and make a couple plays in a game. So those are some of the interesting things. It's a short week. Thursday games generally are more, they're not as crisp played. There's usually more turnovers, more mistakes, just for the fact that, you're coming in and it's Thursday already. On Monday, you're basically having a Thursday practice. The Cowboys admitted last week they didn't practice well. That could be an issue. We'll see if they improve that this week. The Giants, we'll see how they do. It's a tough week. Cowboys are traveling. This, like I said, if there is a time where this Giants team would be able to beat this Cowboys team, it's this Thursday. It's this week on Thursday Night Football at MetLife Stadium. So we'll see if they can do it. The Giants, 21-15 winners in Cleveland. They get their first win of the season. You break the seal. It's always a good thing. Like I said, 0-3 is the death now. They didn't go 0-3, so they could get a win here. Let's see them get a win. Go in there, beat the Cowboys. Go to 2-2, and you compete in the division. I mean, you got Washington and Philadelphia both at 2-1. The Giants and Dallas at 1-2. If you can get to 2-2, hey, you never know, right? Maybe you start to compete, because Philadelphia looks beatable this year. Washington, I think Washington's going to fade. They're not. Listen, they got a rookie quarterback. They're not. They have a future. It's just happened. It's just not now for Washington. And they beat up on Cincinnati last night, and they almost blew that game. Cincinnati almost came back, but Cincinnati's screwed. Cincinnati basically has screwed themselves out of this season. Now, if you look at some of the scores, as we'll go through real quick on a week 3 in the NFL, some of the scores, some of the things that went down. You had Colts beat the Bears. So the Bears offense that's been sputtering finally wasn't able to win the game. The defense won 2 games for the Bears. It couldn't pull it out this week. The Colts win that game. Vikings 34-7 over the Texans. Sam Darnold and the Vikings look like the real deal. They've shot up in the power rankings for the league I believe it was the NFL.com power rankings. The Vikings are the real deal, and Sam Darnold and Jets. If the Jets somehow sputter this year, it's gonna be all about Sam Darnold. They play him coming up too, and he's gonna have a big game. He's looking for redemption. The Steelers, the Steelers just listen. The Steelers win every year. You could put them in for 10 wins. You could put him in for the playoffs every single year. Mike Tomlin's one of the all-time great coaches. They've had 3 coaches in 100 years in Pittsburgh. They just know how to do it. They win again 20-10. As San Diego, who stayed on the East Coast for the week last week, it didn't work out. And Harbaugh and his team only got 10 points. The Broncos won again. They beat the Bucs. That was a surprising one. Packers beat the Titans 30-14. The Panthers finally get a win. So everybody's going to get a win, right? Even the Panthers. And they beat the Raiders. And Antonio Pierce is now, talking about business decisions being made, and we're going to get rid of players. The Jets have their eye on Devontae Adams. Don't let it fool you that they don't. They are watching closely what's going on over there with the Raiders. And if things start to spiral out of control, which it looks like they might, they are going to go and they're going to make a push to get Adams in here for Rodgers as another weapon. The Dolphins, listen, without Tua, they have no quarterback. Okay, this happened to the Jets and the Giants last year, and we saw how quickly the season goes down the drain when you lose your quarterback. Well, the Dolphins season has gone down the drain. They lost 24-3. They had no offense. They have no quarterback. With no quarterback, you can't win. So the Lions beat the Cardinals, a 20-13, only by 7. Like we said, the Ravens and the Cowboys, they almost blew this game. The Cowboys almost came back. They played a terrible first half. They were blowing out the Cowboys. The Ravens let them come right back into the game, and the Ravens were that close to being 0-3 and having their season pretty much over. The 49ers with a bad loss. This is a bad loss for the 49ers. They blew a big lead against the Rams. The Rams come all the way back at home to beat the 49ers, and the 49ers now, it's starting to be questioned. Are they as good as we thought? Is Brock Purdy as good as we thought? So there's questions there. There are a lot of these teams that coming into this year where they're going to be good. They're going to be a big team. You got these teams. Even the Chiefs look beatable. And we'll get to that in a second. But the 49ers, this loss for the 49ers, blowing this lead, it could have repercussions down the road. They lose to the Rams 27-24. The Chiefs squeaked by the Falcons. There was a bad pass interference call that the Chiefs benefited from. The Falcons, this was their "we're here, we've arrived" type of game. They wanted to win this one. They circled it on their calendar. But the Chiefs, they're still the Chiefs. They still have Mahomes. He's still the best player in this league. But if you look, Kelsey isn't doing anything this year. Kelsey it seems like he might be unhappy with his targets. Okay, he had one big play in the game this week. It was called back on a penalty. It's like the second or third time that's happened. Is there going to be some friction there? Now, not as long as they're winning. They're 3-0. They've squeaked by all 3 weeks, but they are still 3-0. And they are still the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions, and you're still going to have to knock them off if you want to get anywhere in December. But there's a little kink in the armor. And listen, they had a kink in the armor last year. I thought they were very beatable last year going into the playoffs, and then they got it together, and they rolled through the playoffs. They steamrolled into another championship. So I am not discounting the Chiefs. They're 3-0. Yeah, they haven't played great, but that just proves how good they are because they haven't played great. Kelsey is non-existent in this offense, and they're still 3-0. And they played some good teams, or supposedly good teams, in the Ravens and the Falcons. Bills, last night, doubleheader on Monday night. Do you like the doubleheaders on Monday night? I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, why? Why do they do it now? It makes no sense to me where they come up with this schedule. Like, why not opening week? Why wait week 3 and then next week, too, they have doubleheader? So why do the doubleheaders on week 3 and week 4? I don't know. Listen, I'm not paid to. Somebody gets paid to answer that question. And it's not me. So, but anyway, you had the doubleheader. Jacksonville going down the tank. Their season is going real bad. Jacksonville is in trouble. They got blown out last night by the Bills. Trevor Lawrence only 178 yards passing. Etienne, nothing, 68 rushing yards. And now they were behind the whole game. But listen, Jacksonville's in trouble. Josh Allen and the Bills look real good. And that's going to be a problem for the Jets. Josh Allen, 263 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, come on, it doesn't get much better than that. He had a 77% completion percentage yesterday. 4 touchdowns. And the Bills dominated the game. 47-10 was the final. And the other Monday night game last night was a good one, but listen, I told you, 0-3 is a death knell. And Cincinnati is now 0-3. They lost to Washington, and Washington played well. The Commanders 36-33. This was a game where they got the lead. They almost blew it. There was a couple good drives by Washington. They turned the ball over. Jaden Daniels looked real good. Now, he's a rookie quarterback, so that's why I say I'm not too high on Washington doing anything this year, because rookie quarterbacks, even the good ones, are going to they're going to be up and down roller coasters. These teams nowadays like to play these rookies right off the bat. When I was growing up, it was unheard of almost for a rookie quarterback to see the field at all in his first 2 or 3 years even. And you couldn't judge a rookie quarterback for 5 years. Now we're judging these quarterbacks 3 weeks into their career. I mean, listen, let the kid play a little bit. He might be good. He might be bad. If Troy Aikman came in this era, he would have been released. He went 1-15 his first year. Eli Manning sat on the bench for most of the first season. And that was where it first started. Eli Manning was in the generation where it first started, where quarterbacks will play a little bit in their first year. Before that, quarterbacks didn't even see the field. They held the clipboard, and that was all they're going to do. Watch and learn. Now you're throwing them into the fire, and when they have 2 or 3 bad games, the teams are just writing these guys off. And you got to be careful doing that, because you could lose out on a good player, and it could cost you a generational quarterback. Like I said, Troy Aikman's the perfect example. He was terrible his first year. Terrible. And look what he did. He turned out to be the 4-time Super Bowl champion, one of the great quarterbacks that we've ever seen in the league. So you got to be careful when you're judging these quarterbacks in the first couple weeks of their first season in the NFL. It's a whole nother game. Not even the same game they're playing from college to the NFL. And you start judging these quarterbacks like this, and you start throwing them away, or you start coordinating them as the next big thing, you're going to be wrong on a lot of them. You're going to be wrong. So the next game now is Giants and Dallas. It's always a fun week, the Dallas week. It's here. It's at MetLife. It's Thursday night, prime time. Giants try and go to 2-2. And like I said, watch out, because they've lost 11 straight to the Cowboys. But if there was a Giants team that can beat this Cowboys team, it's this team. It's this week. And let's see what happens. Hopefully the Giants don't get too conservative. Find Nabers. We're going to find out some things about Nabers this week, because he's going to get doubled, and he's going to start going up now against the big corners. Teams are going to double him. They're going to try and shut him down and make the other receivers beat them. And the Giants wide receivers, besides Nabers, So let's see if Nabers, the great ones, will make plays when they're double covered. Let's see how good he can be. This is it's an interesting game. It's an interesting game. I don't think the Giants are going anywhere, but hey, good win versus Cleveland. They held them off. The defense played well. They got to the quarterback. They got off the field on third down. They got some turnovers, and that's how you win in the NFL. So we'll see if they can keep it going, try and go for 2 in a row. Dallas reeling after a bad loss, where they looked bad at home to a Baltimore team, which suddenly is not as good as we thought. As things start to kind of shuffle and take place here in the NFL, 3 weeks into the season, week 4 starts Thursday night. It's the Giants and the Dallas Cowboys from MetLife Stadium. Mets tonight, Jets. We'll get to, we've done plenty of Jets. So the Mets are tonight. Atlanta, they got a hurricane coming. It's a whole lot going on there. I will probably do something with the Mets tomorrow. I'll put out a show. We'll review tonight's game and everything. But either way, today was Giants. We haven't done Giants, so we did some Giants in the NFL. Until next time, everybody, remember, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. You can find us on YouTube. you can find us at the home hub of Locked Up Sports, which is www.lockedupsports.net, lockedupsports.net. So until next time, everybody, I'm Bob Walters from the Brian Gunzel Studios. See ya.